As I was saying, let's get moving so we can get things set and down the road. First of all, I would also like to thank Chief, and I'm not sure he's going to be with us today, but for delivering the budgets. That is such a big thing. I didn't want anybody not being able to open the budget, and so they volunteered to take it out to all of our members. And let's see, a couple of housekeeping things. Because we are on a limited time schedule and I want to be cognizant of everybody taking the time to be here, we put a time limitation on each topic, and I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak. So after the first speaker introduces the topic, then we're going to give 3 minutes per speaker so that people can have an opportunity. So please keep it brief and concise so that we can get your points. And if we can go back pro and con, that's always a good way to work any kind of a conversation. The other piece that is important, since we can't see everyone on the video, before you speak, say your name and then go ahead and start talking. Because if I need to take notes or Sylvia or Matt needs to take notes, they need to know who it is that's speaking. Any questions on housekeeping stuff? Welcome, Mickey. I just saw you coming on. Okay, citizens' comments. I don't think we have, well, Ruth, you are a citizen, but you're with us on this stuff. So do you have anything to say to the group?
I guess I would love to tell you all thank you for working hard on scoring your stuff and getting it on time so that this last time we saw each other, we were able to have a uniform front and just say, here you go, council. You know, that was awesome.
That's absolutely right. And good lead into tomorrow. I was going to close out my notes. Tomorrow evening, 6 o'clock is the council meeting when our presentations will be made. Please be there, everyone. And if you have anything that you need to say, you're welcome to let all of the council persons know what your feelings are. I think what we need to do is let them have all the information possible so when they make a decision as to which marketing firm we are going to be working with, they have the best information possible. So thank you as well from my side of the house. Okay, action to finalize the production of the promotional banners by Wahine Creative. What we had talked about at the last one, we had a motion and a second and chose the display number 3. And Sylvia, you want to pop that up, please? We sent her back to just put a little bit more sun in the banners. I saw positive feedback coming out of it. They said they liked them. And so that's really looking good. What we need to decide today, because we are approved to go to promotion, get them made and get them up, we need to decide how many of each side we want to do. We can do 25 and 25. We can do 20 and 30. Clayton.
I have a question. Do we have a map that shows the location of all of the places that these banners are going to be posted?
Okay, Sylvia is working on that right now, and that'll be finished by the time.
Working on that primarily within the shopping districts themselves, primarily within the shopping centers themselves.
Okay. Does that answer your question? Good. Vicki?
You're muted.
Okay.
Vicki.
Unmute yourself.
Okay, any better? Hello?
Much better.
I hope some of these are going to be on the street too and not just in the shopping center, because the people that are in the shopping center to see them are already there. Yes, and we want them on the street for people passing through so that they will think about coming into there.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's good, as long as there's some outside.
There will be, yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Ruth.
Hi, thanks. In order to put them on the street, don't we have to have permission ahead of time from Austin Utilities? Because they're on the street.
So yes, we need permission from Austin Utilities, but 50 is such a low number. It's going to get taken up along the shopping center and within that very small ERW area and right around that shopping district. We don't anticipate any on the poles or anything. And then if you recall the conversation too, because we are moving to branding, we didn't want to confuse brand identity with the short-term banner as opposed to what was going to be long-term consideration. I'm sorry, I had a teeth pulled last week, so I'm talking slow.
So
Okay.
we are talking primarily in the shopping center and possibly along ERW because our city owns poles there.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be on Brody pretty much because that's all utility poles and that's too much red tape and too much time.
Correct.
Okay, Nikki?
Do we have any poles down the middle in the center aisle on Brody? It's a shame not to have, I mean, that's our main thousands of car street, not the utility poles, but, or even for that matter, asking any of the shopping center owners whether we can do something on their property.
So the shopping center owners have been positive. They still need permission, but have been very positive in trying to work with us. Again, 50 is such a low number. We think that number will get eaten pretty quickly within the immediate vicinity of the shopping center and within, mostly we're looking at the outer perimeter. There's things that you can see along Brody and ERW. There are some poles in there, especially the Village and Market Fair, kind of right on the corners of the intersections. All of those poles. There's even one over by the Wendy's, I believe, in that sort of corner. So to the extent that we can spread those 50, again, there was a lot of talk about confusion within what's a short-term banner and what's our longer-term marketing. So that's why we only did 50.
Okay. Can
I would
I
like
have
to
a,
have my hand raised.
yes,
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
So I think we should do 3 in front of the Poke and FedEx. There's 3 lampposts around there. 2 on the Mighty Fine and Floyd's area. Those should have just the left side. And then at the entrances to the Village entrance, you could do 2, both sides of the banner on both sides. A lot of them are missing brackets. I know that we said we were going to buy brackets with all of them, but there are brackets that exist on a bunch of them, so we don't necessarily have to buy the brackets. There's also in the back of the Mattress Factory area, there's 2 poles there that are the old time lamps. There's a bunch other spots. There's 4 in front of the fire bowl on that little mini sidewalk area.
Lisa, excuse me for just asking a question. Okay, can you write those down? Because going through them in front of everybody is not really helping us to understand where you'd like to have them done. So,
Penny, what I'm saying is you're not going to be able to do them on Ernest Robles Way if you utilize all the lampposts along both Home Depot Boulevard and the lampposts that are currently available if you get shopping center sign off. And the actual thing that City Council approved said you were going to do banners on Brody and inside the shopping malls. It did not say Ernest Robles Way. So just FYI, I think that 50 banners is going to get used up real quick, like Sylvia said.
okay, that's wonderful.
There's 14 alone just on Home Depot Boulevard.
Okay, but we don't have to put 14 there. What we can do is take a look at what your proposal is and take a look at where we can best utilize putting them up so that we would get the most view. So if you would make a little scale map and put where you think they should go, we'd be happy to look at it. What our deal today is to figure out how many of each banner we want to do, get them started, and then in that week that it takes to have them through production, we'll be able to figure out where we want to put them. This is kind of a moot point right at this moment as we're working through the process. Would you be willing to do that?
Well, I don't want to make a map, no, but I'll cut and paste my initial notes. I didn't do a definitive pass on this. Like I don't know which malls have sign off or not.
Okay, well,
I
we'll
read the
work with Sylvia. We will work with Sylvia and we'll get all of that together. I appreciate your being willing to help us with this. That's wonderful. But we've got timing that we've got to be getting through. So if you make that or take your notes and, do a write off of your notes, whatever you need to do, that would be quite helpful. Okay. Can I have a motion?
I just have one real quickie. There's one in front of 2905 Jones that's heavily trafficked along Jones and where Sunset from Austin dead ends into Jones. There's one there. All of the Saturday morning market goes through there. A lot goes through there. So just put that in your thinking cap anyway as you go around the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mickey, will you jot that down, and then send it? Okay? Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to determine how many of which ones of the two banners we're going to do? Clayton.
I've got one question, then I'll make a motion.
Okay.
So are you going to send an Excel spreadsheet with the 50 locations? Is that what you?
That's what we're asking Lisa to work with Sylvia and Mickey to do that.
So we're going to have a list of the 50 locations and then.
Yes.
Okay,
And then we can choose and pick where we want to put them.
Okay, so I make the motion.
Okay. To do 25 and 25? That's the question we have here.
Well, I don't think you mean 25 and 25 plus.
25 of the right side of the banners and 25 of the left side.
I think
because that's the only piece we did not have from this last meeting.
I don't know that we'll be able to make that determination until I see the list.
Then we're putting the timing off again.
We can use them any place, the right or the left, depending on which one we have the most
They
of.
can be used separately on either side.
Okay, then let's get 25 and 25.
Okay, a second to that motion?
Second.
Who said Mickey? Okay. Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, let's go for the vote. I'm sorry, what?
It looked like John was.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Sorry about that.
Okay.
The left side that says shop, dine, and play, I would ask that we go 75% on that one, because that has the more specific calls to action. Look, find, enjoy is incredibly vague and doesn't really tell anybody anything.
Okay.
So I think if I would say we should go 75-25 if we're going to do it on a percentage basis. 75% left, shop, and 25% on the right.
Okay.
36,
we have a friendly amendment. Clayton, are you amenable to that?
You want to just clarify at 40 and 10?
I'm sorry.
Clayton, you're a little hard to understand.
40 and 10 instead of 75, 25.
Clayton, there's something going on with your audio where it sounds muffled to the point of not being able to understand it.
I'll move my thing up here.
Okay, 2/3 and 1/3 of the 50 of the ones that say shop would be the 2/3, 1/3. Mickey, you have a second on that? Are you amenable to the amendment, the friendly amendment?
I'm amenable to it, but if for some reason we find that we're one over or one under, I'd like to let somebody adjust that within reason, rather than us sitting here saying that without knowing the polls. So that's all I'm saying is with a little bit of wiggle,
2/3 with 10% administrative approval.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Opposed? Okay, motion's passed. Thank you, everyone. Okay, next is special request for hot funds to the city council. This situation, last month, Karen gave a report about that special grand reopening process. We made the motion to say that we would wait until we heard more back from the different management companies. At this point, we were notified that we had to have our request in for hot funds very shortly. And so what we want to do is go to the council and ask that we have the funding to do a grand opening, grand opening, excuse me, of our shops. And it may be a different title, whatever, but we have to ask for the funds. And according to the budget that we had developed for it, the request would have been for no more than $50,000. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to spend $50,000. It doesn't mean that the event may go right now, but we have to request those funds or the money just dries up altogether. Do we have any questions? And then I will ask for a motion that we just take to the council to get that funding request in place so they can vote on it. There's no questions?
Wait, hey, Penny, this is John Popola.
Sure. Yeah.
Can you, I'm sorry to add, can you remind me, I think I was getting confused between the thing that Ross had sent and so
Okay.
what is this
Okay, these are two different items altogether.
Yeah.
One
I'm looking at
is
the agenda,
for, Ross is down on number 5. We are
so
on
we're
number
4.
2.
Gotcha.
Or 4 rather, I'm sorry. And this was where we would take a time, publicize it tremendously, work with the management companies, work with the stores, have a day. And this was something that Chief brought up initially. Karen and Sandy worked on trying to develop it a little bit further. And then to see where we could have a day where all the stores would have maybe a sidewalk sale. They would be prizes. We would have the newspaper there. We get Nick from the community impact out, maybe the radio stations, publicize that we are open for business. This would be happening after the banners are up. Hopefully, if they can vote on the management company, we can get them involved in a way that they can help us with this as well.
So
all of these are pieces that are dependent, but we've got to go for the funds now.
What was the funds? Maybe I'm missing the backup. What were the funds and who's going to execute this?
Okay, this is where
we don't have the marketing firm set up yet, so I was
I know.
Sorry if I'm asking very basic questions that maybe were covered in other materials.
Yeah. Okay, Karen, go ahead.
John, what we were talking about, and I haven't heard back from anybody about the shopping centers. I haven't heard back from our city officials, but one of the ideas was to have everybody sign a thank you and run it along 290 for about a little less than a mile, so everybody would recognize that it was Sunset Valley saying thank you to our merchants and everybody, and that could cost. And the other thing we talked about was having lots of volunteers come out and help us man everything, and maybe have music, maybe have receipts, and you take them to, if you get 3 receipts from a store, take them to one of our restaurants and they could get a discount. At this point in time, we really need to wait till we have a marketing firm, and after seeing how much really would be involved, we really have to wait a while, I think. And also the heat's going to play a pretty important part in there too. And the money would be the banners, what to sign them with, the water, and the Arts Commission. Ruth represents the Art Commission on that committee, and we just decided after we all voted that we need to kind of put it on hold till our marketing company. Does that help, John?
It does, but I guess it makes me more confused about what we're being asked to vote on right now, because it doesn't sound like we
Just-
have an execution, like, yeah, so maybe.
Okay, I can clarify that for you, John.
Yeah.
What we need to do, there is a deadline to request hot funds. If we don't get it in by that date, the hot funds will not be available. So we have to ask for the hot funds, have them available, maybe not use them right away, maybe not
Gotcha.
use them at all, but we've got to ask. That's what I'm asking for the motion.
Okay.
And then we will be working with the Arts Commission. Ruth is kind of their representative. As we go down the road, they can help us with some of the music,
So this
the
is to keep it-
activities.
To keep it on track for
Exactly.
future-
For future event.
Gotcha.
Correct.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll motion to put that in front of City Council.
Okay. John, a second to that, please. Okay. Whoop, Clayton.
What is the motion?
Okay, to go to the council.
I guess
For
I motion to
request.
request the funds from City Council for use in a future marketing
Reopening event. Yeah. Have you got that, Matt?
And I seconded it.
Okay, Clayton
Yes,
seconds that.
it's-
Okay.
So it's not. a
Any more
specific
discussion?
amount, It's just request funds. It's not an amount or.
Okay, initially we had in that proposal, it was not to exceed 50,000. We can ask for that amount. Not sure if council will approve that much or they'll cut it. John, your motion, are you amenable to saying not to exceed 50,000? And that way then we're
Yeah.
covering ourselves.
Sure.
Okay, so Matt, not to exceed 50,000. And that does not necessarily mean we're going to use it, but if we get music venues, we get, support, gift cards, all the pieces that have to come together for this. And there will be costs from the marketing company for executing that as well. So,
And just
Okay.
to clarify, Penny, this is Matt, sorry, just to clarify, hot fund? Hot
yes,
fund?
this is hot funds. Yes, that's why we're asking that one. Okay, no comments, no questions. Let's go for the vote.
This is Roger. I have a question. I was raising my hand, but I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry, we couldn't
What's
see
the
you.
relationship between this item and the spreadsheet that was delivered to us today?
Okay, that's our budget for 2021, and that's the proposed budget, which I'm asking you guys to review. And then as we look at it, we can amend it, we can tweak it. This is for hot funds, and hot funds, and maybe you weren't with us. Hot funds from right now have to be in and requested.
No,
If we don't request them, they go away.
I'm just trying to match up this spreadsheet with where it is on the agenda.
It's not on there. Ron.
It's
Okay.
Yeah,
thank
this
you.
is
Then
for
I
next
apologize.
year. That's for next year. This is for
Okay.
something that could be used in this year or if it carries over, but we have to ask for it. So
I apologize.
does that
Okay.
answer it for you?
Sure does.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor, aye.
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 Maybe we should do a vote, huh? Okay, all those opposed? Okay, motion is passed. Thank you, everybody. And we will put that together and then take it to council. Okay, next is a discussion of possible action for resident support of our business plan. And Ross, would you like to take over the floor? Ross? Matt, is Ross on?
I don't see Ross on.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was initially on, but I don't see him online at the moment.
Okay, I wonder if something happened. I hope not. Okay, well, what his idea was, and he sent this out to everyone. So you all have gotten information on what he was talking about. And while we are doing this piece, what his is a lower profile and it serves two purposes. Number one, it shows our businesses that we do support them. And then it also gets our citizens or our residents involved in the process. And what initially the thought was is to just do one day and have people go in, visit different stores, visit stores that they purchase things in, and to be able to say, we're here, we support you. Ross came up with an interesting spin on that, like Austin does in one day a month, they have support a particular neighborhood, and you could do one of our shopping areas, another shopping area, and another shopping area. So what we want to do is just be able to develop that a little bit further. And he was going to have a presentation. How about we'll go past on that, and then when he comes back on, Matt, if you'll let us know, then we can allow him the floor back.
It
Okay.
looks like he tried to come on, and but then he vanished again. Oh, now he's back on again. I had also sent a slightly modified version of this as well. I mean, I think it's a good idea.
Clayton, we can't. Is everybody else having a hard time understanding Clayton's audio?
There's a little bit of a reverberation on that, yes.
Okay, I'll call in on cell phone.
Okay.
That's Ross.
It might be using a different microphone than you think it's using, Clayton. Like it might not be using your webcam. Maybe it's using the internal mic on your computer. Or...
Ross is back on, Penny.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Ross, you have the floor. Don't mean to push in, but I'd like you to be able to talk to everyone about your thoughts on the community citizens' involvement.
He's self-muted, but he's on.
Okay. Can you unmute yourself, Ross?
Can you all hear me now?
No,
I can't.
We lost him again. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, when he comes back on, then just let us know. Okay.
So I'm not there? I can hear you guys.
Oh,
There you go.
Am I there now?
much better. Yes.
Yep, there you
Yes.
go.
Sorry. Okay, I was just saying that I really like what Ross put together. I support it completely. I submitted a slightly modified version that had a index of all of the local restaurants on the back of it. And I mean, even just doing the restaurants, it was a couple of pages long. But I like his idea, and I think that we ought to discuss, you know, maybe doing a couple of these days, one just for the restaurants and another one for the shopping, just because there's so many of each to when you tally the list together.
Yeah, that's possible. Would you be willing to work with Ross on helping to develop that out?
Ross is here. Can y'all hear me?
Oh, yeah. Okay, Ross, we've got you.
Hey, yeah, I've been having issues. I was driving back from Dripping Springs. So I've caught things intermittently, so forgive me if there's some redundancy to what I'm going to say. The idea here is to create some sort of event that can happen monthly, and it'll be very much tied to the space of Sunset Valley. Initially, I like the idea of keeping it generic just to gauge the enthusiasm for the idea. I think that we have a propensity to make things more complicated than they need to be by delineating like all of the different business types. We need to make sure that there's an audience and enthusiasm from residents to go do this thing. And the thing is simple. It's just go out and show support for the local people who help support us. And so I like the idea of keeping the first one very generic, just to make sure that it could be replicable for future events. So, you know, first one goes awesome. Then, you know, we think about doing something specific to restaurants or like different sections of Sunset Valley. But the goal is to get local residents excited, but also our friends who don't live in Sunset Valley. It'll give them an excuse to come to us and spend money. And, you know, if we keep this like something that's simple and people know where it is month after month, it's going to have a lot more success if we roam it around into different parts of the city. I see us making it too complicated and people are going to forget that we're open on whatever day. And so it needs to be just very simple, you know, like we're around every third Thursday from like 6 to 8 or something like that. And people can understand that. So that's what I got.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, what I would like to get from you then is a motion to accept and move forward, and then we'll take questions. Okay, Ruth, I see your hand up. Ross, can you make a motion, please?
Okay, so I make a motion that we accept the letter I wrote to go out to all of the city for an event to show support for our local businesses on the third Thursday of this month, or well, of next month, July.
Okay. A second, please.
I second that.
Okay, John,
This
a
is John.
second. Okay, I can see some of you up at the top of my screen, so I can figure out where you are. Okay, Ruth had her hand up. Ruth, do you have a thought?
Yes, ma'am. I was just wanting a point of information on this. Is there a cost involved and where does that come from? And if it's going to be repeated, is it part of your budget? I'm just wondering.
Ross?
So
I think it's
the cost would be just for any shipping and printing costs if we actually send out a mailer. If we just send out an email to the entire city, it's going to be a whole lot cheaper. And so what I'd like is for us to just send something in the mail to that effect, and we can add more signatures to it if the entire committee wants to do this thing, but I didn't want to speak for other people. That's why I only had my name on it.
Yeah. I think if it goes out and all of CED supports it, that says a lot for it being something that is a universally supported event or events. Ruth? You're muted.
I had muted when Ross was talking to help me hear him. I really love this concept and I'm very excited about it. From a communication promotions profession though, I think a lot can be done to make it go off better, especially now that I know it's costing you money. It's not just an email. What is your target date?
I think he said third Thursday of July would be the target date.
July 23rd.
Okay. If I could just give you all three ideas. One is the ask is support your city, go out on this day and time, but the motivation, there isn't like scarcity, like you got to do it this time and not other times. There's not a case made for that. There's not the social proof will be there because you're going to have your whole CED people sign it, so they're going to see there's a lot of crowd interest. But I just don't see from a communication promotion standpoint that there's not a compelling reason to follow this advice versus do what I was planning to do, and that was go next Wednesday or go outside of Sunset Valley. It's warm, it's open, and it's an invitation, but it needs some editing. So that, I mean, it's a heartfelt message from Ross, but it needs to have like a marketing person come and look at it and say, you should change this wording or put this idea first before you ask for this, to just make it more responsive. Because if it is going to cost money, just send it to their mailbox. I would love to see it be more impactful. If it's going to go to an email, it's like, okay, it doesn't cost anything. Go ahead and try it. So that's just my heartfelt concerns for you guys.
Okay. Ross, comment?
So if we're going to spend money on it, I'm certainly open to having somebody else copy edit it. That's why I sent it out ahead of time, so that people could kind of get a sense of what it was. But my other concern is having this get way too crowded, and try to govern by committee. Like, we just need to have like a small, impactful group that would work on any copy editing, which I'd be open to, but I don't want it to be, all of CED. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Well, we can't have all of CED unless we're in a meeting. Could I ask for Ruth? Would you be willing to help with copy editing on that with him? And Clayton had some ideas. Would the two of you be willing to work with Ross? Okay, I see a shake of Clayton's head.
Yes.
Ruth?
Yes, I'll be happy to work with him.
Okay.
The city would be printing these just off their laser printer like they normally do.
Right.
So we could
Right.
color, like we could put a nice little picture in there to catch their eyes.
I'm sure we could. I'm sure we could.
Okay, sure.
Okay, Sylvia, we're good? Okay,
Yes.
and Clayton and Ruth, you'll be willing to work with Ross and we can move forward on that then? Okay.
And I make
Okay.
a comment?
Let me
Nikki,
ask you a quick-
go ahead. Whoops, go ahead.
And even if possibly it was in the form of a little more like a flyer with, like you said, a picture or something, because looking at just a whole bunch of typing is stuffy, and the idea is good, but we would like it to have a pizzazz and pop out at us a little bit. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, good.
Jenny,
Yeah.
this is Karen.
Karen?
I love Howdy on Brody. I think that, Ross, that is really, it really sounds like Sunset Valley.
That was Miles came up with that slogan. Miles Fox on Pillow Road.
Okay, good. Well, we'll have to reach out to him and tell him thank you. That's a
Cite your
good
sources.
one. Okay, Clayton.
Yeah, I had one question, which was for this event on July 23rd, when we talk about come out, should we establish and set up something like a tent or a location where people can come by and I don't know, do we have some city freebie handout things that we could set up in one of the shopping centers for people, and would people be willing to sign up and attend to a tent or a booth or something on that day?
Yeah. One of the things the original idea had was to have little business cards that had the logo for Sunset Valley and say, we appreciate you, or however we wanted to put verbiage on it. And the person that was the resident would take it into the business and give it to that business person or that shop. So you would probably need some place for people to pick those up. So how about if we let the work group, it's not a committee, work group, come back to us with that. But we need the motion so that we can move forward on this idea, because up to this point, it's just an idea. So we have a motion and by Ross and a second by John to move forward on this with a work group of Clayton and Ruth to help on, putting the pieces together on this. Do we have any other comments? If not, let's go take a vote on it. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? I saw your kitty cat, Mickey. Okay,
Yeah,
motion
I don't
is
think it's
passed.
allowed for the cat to vote.
She's voting in Mickey's place, right? Okay, that motion is passed. And guys, good. I think this is neat. And, anything we can do to help our businesses. Now, just kind of an outside thing, I got an email, but I have not gotten information back. Rudy sent it to me. She was thinking that we should buy face masks and put our logo of Sunset Valley on them and give them to the different shops so that they could hand it out to people when they come into shop if they didn't have a mask on or something. Again, that's a cost thing. I asked her to elaborate on it, and she's not gotten back to me yet. But that's something out there and hanging in, ideas are coming through. So keep those coming, please. Okay. All righty. Now,
Then
the next, oh, I'm sorry.
this is
Who is-
Rudy Rosengarten.
Oh, Rudy, hi.
Hi. I didn't say put Sunset Valley on the face mask. I said put the retail stores' names on the face masks. So like for Old Navy, you would have a logo of Old Navy on the face mask, and Big Frog can put it on the face mask. And then you give them to Big Frog, you give them to Old Navy for the employees to wear them. And when they're out in other areas, they're wearing them, and they're the walking billboard. And then eventually, maybe Old Navy wants to buy some for giving out to other people so that they're their walking billboard.
Okay, so that's where I got the walking billboard, because I remember that and I couldn't tell details. Okay, well, that's something that we can kind of incorporate into our thinking process. So thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, let's move on then to number 6. And what, John, I wanted to live up to my promise to you. Whenever we had the last meeting and you had a proposal for another banner, and we couldn't discuss it because it wasn't on the agenda. And I told you that I would, bring it back at the next meeting. And so, living up to my promise to you, I want to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit about it. I think this is something that can come into work with our new marketing company if this works out, but I did want to give you the floor so you have that opportunity.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate that, Penny. I wasn't expecting this. This was a presentation that I put together with Lisa, mainly because I just frankly wasn't satisfied with the final outcomes, although I think they were all executed in good faith on the part of Wahini. I thought we could be simpler and bolder and have a more bold and modern take on the design. So I put this together to sort of lay out the approach to the design. It's a little bit obsolete, but I'd certainly at this point it's a donation to the city, so they can the firm maybe will find some value in it. But if you want to just, whoever is controlling the screen, go to the next slide. So yeah, so the design goals, and I mean, if anything, maybe I'll just go through this for the sake of
John, I don't think you have to go through it.
Well,
I think it's a moot point.
Yeah, I mean, you can, I don't know if this can just be shared around with everybody, but the point is, these are the design goals: legibility, boldness, drive action. Here, go to the next slide. This was the sort of creative concept of using the feeling of the sun and the warmth of the sun, and specifically sort of the notion of like the sun against the sky for a Sunset Valley. So go to the next slide. So here is a sort of abstract sunset gradient that we thought portrayed that concept really, really well. It's from Adobe stock. And then go to the next slide. And this was the execution. This was somewhat exploratory because there's a couple different font approaches that are here. But the one on the left, and there's gradient shifts that can be explored. But this was this was meant to be presented as an alternative to the designs that were put forward. So
I also think that the black is off brand a little bit for Sunset Valley. I thought it should be maybe like a navy blue or something, like a little softer. But we just did this as a mock-up example of just some bold thinking that might be a little different and modern.
Yeah, okay, well, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. How about, would this be feasible to, when we have our new marketing company, we readdress this to work with them on it? And it can then help with the process. I just wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity. I did promise you that you would have that.
No, I appreciate that, Penny. So I mean, I think it's free for folks to use and iterate on and draw inspiration from or discard. So it's I'm happy with whatever outcome.
It was a fun exploration. We spent a night fiddling around on the computer. We're not graphic designers. I just want to say that.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate it, and I know all of the committee does. So we do want you to know that your work is appreciated.
Yeah,
and
thanks.
what I'd
That
like
means a
to
lot to
see,
me, Penny.
well, you are quite welcome. What I would like to see is how about as a committee, and again, it's open, it's not just me, it's everybody on this committee. Would it be workable that we could kind of table this and readdress it once we have the new marketing company, and they can compare what we have with what we're trying to accomplish, and as we go through that process, then we can make something that's really going to be fantastic for Sunset Valley. We've got a good thing now. We'll be all often reiterating, renewing, and revamping. Would you be okay with that, John? We readdress it?
Oh yeah, I mean, we
Okay.
don't have to. We just sort of provide it as a, something that they can look at. And I think we've got great firms at the table that are going to go way past this. So I'm excited to see them take fresh. I wouldn't let it unduly influence them. Just like, hey, here's something that a citizen did that take or leave.
Well, then are we in agreement as a committee that we'll hold on to and relook as we go down the road with the new marketing company? Yes, no, halfway. I see one shake. Motion, can I have a motion? Maybe that's what we need.
This is Karen. I move that how do we do it? File it, John?
Let's just table it for the time being.
Okay, that we table it and bring it up with marketing.
Okay, second?
I second that.
Okay, John, second. Okay, any more comments? All right, to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I see some hands, some ayes. Opposed? Okay, motion is passed. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Okay, flipping over. We are working our way through this. And I promised you guys I would get this done as quickly as I could because I know everyone is here and we need to get things so we allow Matt and Sylvia to get ready for the other two meetings tonight. Okay, number 7, committee budget recommendation for 2021. Okay, and what this is, let me just kind of, normally how we have done this in the past, when Sarah was with us, she came to us with a proposed budget, and we took last year's budget, revamped it. Well, so this year with so many changes and so many nuances, the COVID, no marketing firm, in the process of getting a marketing firm, we had to kind of step back and look at what is it that we have to have, what is it we would like to have, and what is it that we can live with, okay? And we were asked to do what they call a gold, a silver, and a bronze budget. And that's the paper that we sent out to you email, and our police force also delivered it because I didn't want anybody not being able to open it and read through and see. I also ask in the email that everyone bring ideas with them to this. So we can look at, and this is going to kind of get it put together a little bit. We're working, one part of the budget is on general funds, and that's the piece that I put in there first. And then the second portion is the hot funds. And everybody knows the difference between the two, correct? Yep, we've got it. Okay. Under general funds, and again, the gold, the silver, and the bronze, community programs, retired residents programs. We looked at the budget from last year was $1,200, and in the gold plan, we kept it at $1,200. We went down to the silver plan, looked at their program, and what originally under the gold, and this is kind of where the committee in the past has been. You would have monthly meetings, you would have classes for them, you could take some field trips. That's what that $1,200 goes for. In the silver plan, the retired citizens program would include activities monthly or maybe more than monthly, but no trips because that cuts down on the cost. And then under the bronze, retired residents program. Classes only. I've given several classes. Agency on Aging has them. ARP has them. You know, those are all programs that will come in for free. All you have to do is provide the site and the snacks for the people. So that's kind of where we could cut it down. Any questions on that part of it? Okay, second one, Spring Fling. That's something that has been done for our citizens, and we did not do it this year because of the COVID, but it's something that our citizens turn out for, they love, and we could not cut it off of our budget. So we had 4,000, 4,000, 4,000. Okay, let's see, social events for residents. This would be something where we recognize different people in the community, different things that go on where we want to have something. We could have a luncheon for the $2,000, a social event, maybe like a tea, which would be $1,500, and then for residents with just a drop-in for $1,000. They'd come to City Hall and drop in, and there'd be somebody there to say thank you. This could be for the volunteers in the different committees. It could be for so many different things, but we needed to insert something because one of the things as a volunteer coordinator that you find is that people like to be said thank you to. If you don't give them the thank yous and that ability for them to feel like what they're doing is worthwhile, you're going to lose your volunteers. So that's something that we needed to have something in. And then the other part that comes out of our general funds is the business to business support. And that's an ongoing thing where we would be working with the businesses, with the management companies, with the owners to get into this area, new businesses. You know, I've heard over and over again, somebody once, and I think it was you, Rudy, you wanted the container store. This would be going underneath that piece where we'd be out there working constantly. And there are different ways that we can work with letting people know what kind of companies we want in. The big piece is, as we found during the COVID, is that there are 3 stores basically that have been giving us revenue streams throughout this whole process. There are 3 big ones: Home Depot, the wine store, and Academy. Okay, we need to get another one in there. We need something that is a bigger store. This would be working with the marketing firm, but also our city people and our council, our mayor, whomever, to work ongoing to try and integrate our needs with what stores they're going to be bringing in. So we did have that on, and in the different levels, we had to take it from 5 to 4 to 3,000. But we needed to have something in there that really says it's important to us. Is there anything else that under the general funds you can see that we might want to include in there? We took from last year's budget and the year before as we were going through that process. Yes, Clayton.
I guess my question is, do we know how much that we've spent on the social events and the retired residents program? Are these actuals, or are these just what we've budgeted previously?
Okay, budgeted and some spent. You know, we have not had the monthly meetings in the last year because I haven't been the one to run it. We need to get somebody out there that can run it, or, you know, we take it over. But I spent every cent when I was doing it for those, 3 years, I guess it was, I did it. We spent every cent.
And
I guess my other question is that when you're saying gold, silver, and bronze, that's basically what we're asking for in terms of relative to Sunset Valley budget.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if on the bronze we need to, and I hate to say it, but if you're looking at kind of a doom and gloom scenario, maybe the bronze numbers need to have more severe cutbacks.
This is Karen.
Yes, Karen.
If we want to have Spring Fling, which is, if y'all remember, I brought you all the stuff for Spring Fling this year, and then that was our last, we can really see you and touch you and all of that meeting. it takes that much money that would have to have it left in bronze as well as silver and gold if we want to have it, because we keep having, which is wonderful, a bigger turnout every time.
And you notice that that is the same number in 4,000, 4,000, 4,000.
But I'm looking
Where
at
are
the
you
total.
saying the cutback? Yeah.
I'm looking at the total, and then you go from 12,200 to 9,600, and overall, that's just not much of a cut. And if we're saying that the city revenues are going to drop by, you know, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, it seems like we need to, if we say the one thing we got to have is the spring fling, or, oh, we want to keep the spring fling and some money for business to business because that's important. But I think someone you need to look at and say, well, I appreciate the social events for residents. I appreciate the retired resident program, but realistically, are those gotta haves or are those nice to haves? And if they're nice to haves, they're golds and silvers. If they're gotta haves, they're a bronze. And I'm not convinced that we gotta have some of those other items.
Okay.
I mean, they're nice ideas, but it's in the heading of, you know, economic Armageddon type stuff.
Well, remember that part of our mission statement, if you look on the website, it's community and economic development. So we have to maintain a balance between the two, taking care of our citizens as well as the economic piece. That's our dual, calling, or whatever you want to call it. But I can see your point, and what we need to do is we need to go through and hammer this out. So as a, you know, what would you propose would be included in there?
Well, I agree with Karen. If you're going to do the spring fling, and if it's a really important thing for the residents, you keep it and you do it right. And maybe even under the gold, you add a tiny bit of budget for next year because we skipped it this year.
Okay.
If I look at retired residents, I don't know what the actual costs are and what the benefits are. I like the idea of keeping money. Just, you know, at what point do you say, we're just not going to do some of these programs anymore?
Okay.
And maybe perhaps that's a Sylvia question.
Yeah. I do know that when we taught the Agency on Aging class on matter of balance, Sylvia, I think we spent $280. So it was minimum amount. Bless you. Let me look.
Yes, there's a very minimum amount total that's been spent out of the CED budget. I believe it's about $850 because none of the other social events have happened. Spring filling was canceled, and then the other social event was also canceled.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay. Are you suggesting then let's just bring it out straight up under the spring fling to take it up to in the gold, take that up to 4,500? Is that
or more?
Okay. Okay, what's your number? What I need to do is kind of have this so that we can take it. I have to do a presentation to the finance committee and defend what we as a committee come up with. So
I think a 10% increase over what we spent last year is reasonable. And if the budget we spent was 4,000, then 4,400 is probably a very reasonable number.
Okay, 44. All right. I'm changing my numbers. Okay. And on the silver budget, we go with 44 as well. I think we need to keep it across the board because that's something that is important to us as a community. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Agree.
Okay. 44, 44, 44. Okay, good. Then under social events for residents, if we said 2,000 for the gold, do we want to look at 500 under the bronze?
I think that's
workable?
I think that's reasonable.
Okay. Let me change that over. And I will send this out once we get things done, and so that we'll have to retally. Okay, now how about the retired residents program? To be a sponsor for any kind of a class, which is something I think that is important for our residents, because we actually had a waiting list when we had the last class and we were going to do it and COVID happened. It takes probably the $250 to $300 to do the stuff that you need to do for it. So do we want to have, see, we had with under the gold $1,200, so that would have been four times 3 is 12, 4 classes, but then that's a whole different thing. But under the bronze, what would you suggest? I mean, I'm open. This is something we have.
I think you just say either 3 or 600, and I would invite other people to comment on that.
Okay, the rest of you, come on, please. Okay, Mickey, you came to one of the classes. What did you think?
Well, I thought it was really valuable. I'm not sure I was there for the first one. I think it might have been the first one.
Yeah,
And I to this day, I use those, the things I learned in that class. As I put my feet over the end of the bed, I do some right before I ever get up. And I was talking to Cynthia Nelson, she's the same way. So I think some of these are, that one in particular was extremely valuable.
Okay. Okay, so that sounds kind of like a vote to maintain the 600, because that's only 2 classes. So the rest, I see a frown on John's face.
Oh, no, I'm not frowning.
Okay, I'm kind of trying to get feedback. All right, then.
I feel a little unable to offer useful feedback just because these are for these programs that are pre-existing, and so I'm really here to listen and learn at this point.
Okay, well,
and you
quite honestly, oh God, no, Mickey, you're not allowed to talk on that one. No, not old. Oops, I gotta deny that. Okay. I do think, and as an instructor on this, there's a number of different agencies that do things like this. So I think keeping 2 classes would be good for our people. Okay.
I have a broader question. I don't know if now's a good time for it. It would be, I mean, since this is a looking ahead document, maybe it makes sense.
Yeah, it's an expense budget, so let's look.
We've is there room to think about how to engage the bigger questions about development? So I've heard some varying folks bring up some things that feel like they are pretty big deals, like the prospect of changes at the Tony Berger AISD Center and the Uplands, and some of these bigger pieces that I've just observed that they get talked about in a somewhat piecemeal way. And do those conversations sort of belong as part of the economic development part of this committee? And is there a world where we should think about engaging either, I partly hate to say engage consultants, but how do we arm ourselves as a committee to have really smart resources to think through those kinds of challenges? Because I don't feel equipped to, as just a citizen, to say I have any sense of how we might respond to things that happen in the Berger Center area. But it's right by my house. It impacts us. But other than that, it seems like it's interesting, the prospect of taking that big picture. So I just kind of raised the general question of, is there like a budget? Is this a budget question? Is it like engage some kind of expertise on these bigger picture issues and pay them for it to be part of the meetings perhaps, and create documents?
Yeah. You know what I would think once we get the new marketing company on board, this would definitely be something that we would want them to investigate and say, where can we best utilize the resources that we have here in Sunset Valley? And that's part of that research that they're going to do, and then their, research and development kind of things. That would be in that part, and that then comes down under the next part, I would believe. I believe, at least.
I think the different firms probably have different levels of ability to do that. Right? But it seems like this might be something that's more in this policy and development domain and less in the marketing communications domain. So I would just offer that it might be something that's pretty distinct from a marketing firm's sort of core competency. Maybe the resonance firm is more inclined towards that. They're much more of a consultancy than a creative shop,
okay.
But I'm curious.
Well, what would
like
what
one
would you?
of my kind of piggybacking off of John. I don't know if anybody's paid attention to the fact that Capital Metro has put the light rail and wants to put it on a voter referendum for this fall. You know, that published plan has a termination point for light rail, essentially at the Burger Center. So I agree with John that that's a huge potential impact. And it seems like Sunset Valley would need to capitalize on that somehow. And I don't know the appropriate, I'm assuming that CED is going to have some impact on that, but I don't even know what we're talking about. And when we start saying, oh, we may want to have some sort of thing constructed there, or a pavilion, or some offloading, or some, something there to capitalize on that long term. I don't know that we're equipped to do that or have the resources to do that. And so I'm kind of piggybacking off of John's comment, which is there are these things that are, not parks, not environmental, that probably are going to end up in our court, that are these types of projects. And I don't know that we have, I agree that we probably need some sort of resources to be able to draw on to help us with that type of thing.
Okay. So what kind of a title, if you had to put a line item on this, what would your title be?
I mean, I guess I would say, I'll give you an example. I would say it'd be economic development strategic consulting.
And okay.
And I'll give you just like a very brief example. Our company creates original content, and I have a producer that's a seasoned sort of Hollywood producer, and she has expertise in some of these areas that I personally lack. And I have her on a retainer on a monthly basis, and she just has the expertise. She doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. But we aren't bringing her on. We can't afford or justify bringing her on as our staff. So it's like a vendor relationship, which gives us the control if we're finding that we're not happy with the results or that there's not a lot of value add to terminate the contract, but that they're, and I think you could negotiate it on a monthly or even maybe on a quarterly basis and try to bring the hourly cost down. But we could make it something where they have assignments. They say, okay, whether it's go and look at all the proposed bonds that might have an impact on Sunset Valley that relate to Travis County or Austin or all these sorts of things, and then sort of present to us so that we could deliberate on those findings and have that raw material to say, okay, hey, this is looking like this might happen in this amount of time. Because I could see how some of the things that we've talked about in general terms, that, if we knew something was coming down the pike or that there was a 50-50 shot of a major change going on at Burger Center, that could really change the way we think about some of the things that are, and even sort of the composition of the flow of the city. And Lisa and I have been riding around town on our little electric bikes and getting a feel for how things are connected. And there's some vision opportunities there, and I think I've heard most of the city council members, with Rudy and Michelle and the mayor and others talk about these big pictures. But I'm just speaking for myself, but maybe for everyone, that these are pretty big thorny things that I don't have the expertise to go out and dig through, like Travis County or Austin code or AISD planning board minutes, and there's got to be somebody out there that this is their job, that they're good at this. They know where to look. They know where the bodies are buried.
Okay. We're not digging up bodies, but we can look at it. Okay. So what kind of a figure would you consider something we'd need to put into our budget for this?
I mean, I would think I would say $5,000 a month is a smart place to start.
I like that. I think starting out, first of all, let's agree that what we want is strategic consulting services to deal with long-term Sunset Valley growth issues. Does everyone agree that that's the category we're talking about?
Okay, rest of the committee.
Strategic
Karen,
consulting
Mickey,
services.
yeah.
Well, I'm a little bit, maybe it's late afternoon fog or something, but are we talking about just like a kitty just in case type money or something?
No, this would be to set aside, and $5,000 a month is pretty specific, because partly out of my own experience with consultants who will range from $150 to $250 an hour.
Yeah,
so if you
that's
say
not a lot,
5,000 and divide it by 250, you're going to get 20 hours in a month, which is not a lot of time. But if you figure that's feeding into our monthly CED meeting, you can see how you could productively use 20 hours in a month to prepare something for us to deliberate on. At $5,000 a month divided by 12 is 60 grand.
Yeah.
So as a matter of thinking about it like a flexible part-time employee that's not an employee and doesn't bring all the other costs associated with employees,
You don't
like
have the
payroll,
overhead.
benefits, overhead, it's pretty it's a pretty good way to go. And the proposition to the city council, I think, should be to actually actively pursue this kind of person, and engage them. Maybe it's a firm that has multiple people. That's a consultancy. Maybe it's an individual person. That might be more efficient if we can find the right person. But that they have some skin in the game, and there's some on-ramp time, but over the course of that, I would say the first 3 months is like the trial period. So that's 15 grand, and we can write it into the contract. You have 3 months to sort of demonstrate your value, and then we evaluate at the end of the 3 months. But we could sort of lay out some big questions,
some guidelines,
right? And say, okay, over the next 3 months, we want to see this. And I think it would just provide some, even if they're only sort of a B+, I think we'd get so much value out of it as a committee. And then I think we'd be in a position to also argue for our ideas more authoritatively with city council. So that'd be I'm sort of thinking through this in real time, but that's my kind of articulation of the value proposition.
Okay, so we would call that strategic consulting development. And
economic development strategic consultant.
What was the first two words?
Economic
development.
And you could say as a line item, strategic consulting, as a line item description.
And Karen had her hand up.
Okay.
I heard you say from the only, and I love the idea, because believe me, I don't have the expertise, but I don't want us to be stepping on any other like city council's toes or anything if they are planning something like that. Because John, I don't know how long you and Clayton and Ross have been here, but we've had loads of meetings on Uplands. We've had
I've heard
on lots of things. So I just want to be sure we wouldn't be stepping on anybody's toes, because the main thing is we don't want to reinvent the wheel And by that, I mean, if somebody's already got something going and we don't know about it, we need to at least know about it. And I like the idea of a consultant because obviously we all don't have those expertise. But I just wanted to be.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Karen. I didn't mean to interrupt. What I think is kind of neat is one of the things that we as a committee and all of the committees in Sunset Valley need to be able to learn to share, and where there may be an overlap, we share. This consultant could be someone who could be shared. And if there's a project going elsewhere, the consultant can kind of slide over, do work there, and then come back. And it's going to cause more cohesiveness. And that's very important in the city, period.
Great point.
And Karen, I'm going to just kind of gently disagree with you, specific to Upland in this case. 2 years ago, there wasn't a Austin mass transit plan that spat out light rail essentially right at the Uplands. And in that environment, you say, well, we don't need Uplands. Let's sell it and use that money for the city or turn it over to the developer and tax it or something. But now that you have that opportunity show up, I think the wheel needs to be reinvented. Someone needs to say, stop, this is coming. This could potentially be, a
gold mine.
A game changer for Sunset Valley to be located at the end of one of these lines. Now we need to have a concept of what that can mean for our city. And I think that quite frankly, maybe some of the people that have been dealing with the Uplands, they may not even be aware of this light rail plan. And I'm assuming, of course, it hasn't passed yet. That still has to pass.
It may take 10 years,
but
right?
That's a big deal. I mean, it could potentially be a huge deal.
And Clayton, I don't agree. I just want to be sure that we can share expertise and not when I say reinvent the wheel, there may be people out there already thinking about it, but I love the idea of a strategy. I just think that we have to be sure we aren't.
I mean,
you're the first person that told me that there's going to be a hand line in Sunset Valley.
I mean, it seems to me like it's not, again, I'm getting up to speed on so much of this stuff. It doesn't seem like there's another committee that's charged with this kind of economic development thinking, even though there's committees whose decisions have an impact on these things, whether it's the budget committee, obviously, or the environmental with rules and regs on that sort of stuff. But it does feel like it fits in our purview. And then I think the other thing that's interesting is if we really end up being really happy with the person or firm that we engage, there's nothing preventing that scope of work being expanded by city council to put more on their plate and to, add more, more engagement with other committees or with the city council or with the, and obviously I feel like the administration is going to be the biggest beneficiary of the insights because they're going to have to act on them implementation wise. So it just feels like we could start something that becomes a resource for everyone, and then our job as sort of a one more window into the diverse citizenry can do that job. We don't have to try to pretend to be experts in some of these things that are hard to figure out. We can be representative of our neighborhoods and our diverse sort of points of view on things.
Can I say something really fast here? Apparently there was an economic development proposal that was approved early in the year for 20K. So I think we ought to be looking at that and talking about that. If that means a public sector consultant, or if we want to be, simultaneously working with the planning of the environmental and planning committee, we should definitely be all working together to look at that, what we could do with that 20K that's already been approved.
That could be a great starting point.
I remind everybody, all of those items in the budget were reduced. We're gonna have to come back and revisit those at some point, but definitely if that's an item that the committee wants to put forward, we.
For the next year, yeah. Okay, how about?
I'd like to weigh in if it's all right.
Sure.
You know, from the very beginning, I felt like that the emphasis here on the money that's being allocated to be spent on a marketing firm to have the emphasis on economic development and a strategy for economic development. And I know that at least one of the firms that's in the finals has that capacity in their toolbox. So I think really this is my concern would be having a consultant just to a committee rather than to the city as a whole. And as you've said, there's overlap, and an economic development person would work across all the various committees, and should be something that's hired if there is somebody like that gets hired at the city level rather than a committee level. The other thing I'll point out is that it's my understanding that we hired a city administrator with significant amount of economic development experience of cities of a variety of different sizes. So I think we have resources, and to go out and continue to layer on resources on top of resources and not fully realize the value of the resources would not be in our favor to do that. So while I'm a proponent of getting economic development expertise available to the city and to all the counties of the city, I worry about it being done on just a committee level, and how much weight that would carry across all the other committees and across the city as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
I would only say one thing to that, is it does seem like Sylvia has a lot of demands on her time, especially with the reduced staff. And so I can't speak to whether the capacity is there or not, or whether there's an overlap or not. I think that the kind of scale, the time scale that we're talking about here is longer. I'm just thinking is a longer time horizon type of thing, and that it would also benefit from somebody who, frankly, almost shades into being a lobbyist, somebody who's entrenched in local politics, where the winds are blowing in terms of some of these things. And I think, like, I know Roger's talking about the Resonance firm, which is one of the three that's more like a consultancy. They're based in New York. It's not to say they aren't qualified, but somebody that's engaged in the local politics and the winds of what bonds look like they're going to pass, and who's moving in Austin City Council to make what moves. That to me is the stuff I'm talking about.
John, I would just come back with you and say that one of the principals of Resonance is on the faculty at the LBJ school. So while they may have New York presence, they also have Austin presence as well.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good to know. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
You guys, and one of the things I have a question about is that what Roger's talking about might not be appropriate use of hot funds, which I understand most cities use hot funds to use for their marketing funds. I think it's a number like 53% of hot funds are used towards marketing cities in the entire state of Texas. But I'm not sure the legality of using it specifically for consulting a city. I'm not sure that's the intent of hot funds necessarily. I'd just like to raise that as a question.
Okay. You know what? I would like to bring a point too, because I've been listening to the pros and the cons, which is a good way to kind of come to some idea. What maybe we need to do is to go to our staff and say, would this be something that would be better off at the city level? Because then it could be available to all committees, to the council, to folks who would come in with ideas. They could be the ones that would pick up on it, investigate it, find the information out, and then come back and then bring it to the appropriate committee, the appropriate work group, the appropriate piece. Because I know with budgets, this is going to be a hard sell. No offense to anybody. I know we have to spend money to make money. That I'm given on that, and I can see that. But at this point in time, it might be something that we can address, but then we also say this needs to be in this level.
Well, then maybe
Clayton.
that, Penny, I think, oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
I guess, yeah, I think Roger had a really key point, but it does need to be kind of a city resource. That being said, I think it would be helpful. Can you not hear me? Am I not coming through?
We can hear you. It's very, it might be something with the
Garbled.
connection, or it feels
Garbled,
very
yeah.
garbled.
Is that better?
There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
My microphone got buried under my shirt. That being said, I would suggest that even the council would want someone to be the quote keeper of the keys in contract for this resource. And so I maybe the appropriate way to pitch it is that we would offer this as a resource that economic development with the aiming towards the economic development intention, but it's a resource that is a planned across multiple communities. I agree with what Roger was saying, that we don't want it to sound like we're giving our own little consultants to do our stuff. I think he's right. That this needs to be a city.
Yeah. Could you, as a committee, give authorization to Sylvia, to myself, and kind of be able to approach it with the mayor and see where she feels this best lies and how we can, because I think it's a wonderful idea. I think it's something that would be shared, that everybody could benefit from as things come down the road, would be a great, great benefit to the whole city. We could pursue this with them, because I'm not sure that, number one, they would approve a budget that adds an additional 60,000 at all levels for
So,
something.
can I say something?
Sure.
So as a committee, at least since I've been here, that's never been a request that's made for information that the committee would like to see. Definitely, we have contacts with the City of Austin. Matter of fact, the City of Austin has been asked to do a presentation on the changes in their development code and how it's going to impact Sunset Valley. So we do have these kinds of dialogues, although not on a regular basis as a lobbyist would do, with regular luncheons or whatever. But if there is a desire for the committee to have a report specific to, and it's a standing agenda item, we can most certainly provide that every month, and then make some type of determination at a point when there's enough aggregate information, whether we want to spend money on a longer term plan.
Okay. I think that's great. Committee, how do you feel?
That sounds really good.
Sounds excellent.
Sylvia, if I'm understanding what you're saying right, let me make sure I'm hearing you right. That what it sounds like you're saying is for us to orient some of our committee time towards hearing from you about the broader picture of what's going on and what's being discussed that applies to economic development, so that we could then sort of make that part of the conversation, the deliberations. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
It would be an ongoing process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just the same way you get the monthly sales tax report. I think there's from a bigger picture perspective, it's not just sales tax, it's what's happening in the walls right around us. And then also making any, this committee is also going to be touching the land development code as we go down that path in the next couple of years, next 18 months or so. So just getting in preparation for what's coming at us. I think would be a good idea. That's just never been a report this this committee has requested.
Yeah, I think it's essential. And that would be, I know it's something that we really, really do need if we're going to be prepared for what the future brings us
Is there
and
an
how we can be
action?
proactive. Yeah.
Is there an action or a motion to make that?
Not yet. We were
Yep.
talking about adding a line item to the budget, but let's get a motion maybe to a monthly report of, Sylvia, do you have a good way of saying that so we can have that motion?
It's a motion to require a standing committee report regarding Austin ISD, specifically Travis County, correct?
Yes.
Austin ISD, Travis County, and TxDOT, I think would be the three major entities. Is there any other entity? So
I would suggest Capital Metro.
Okay, Cap Metro.
Okay.
So we'll start with those entities, and then if anything comes from that, we can build further.
Yeah. And you know what we can do also is to have it be, if there's something that comes in your direction that might not have been in those 4 areas, can be added to the report, and an update on something new.
Sure.
Okay. So that piece I think is important.
I think that Sylvia has a great idea with this report. Might that be helpful for all the groups like Public Works, Zoning, Planning and Environmental? Might that be a meeting that could be, or a document even with all those updates that could be widely distributed for all of our benefit and not just CED? I think that's really important information. And it
Sure,
could be
the council liaison can bring it to the council level for distribution.
That would be great. I think it could be, multi-committee effort to understand all that information would be really helpful.
It sounds like what we might be talking about is something almost akin to like a living document, because I think a lot of these issues are not going to come and go within a month, but they're going to be things that are tracked over long periods, like Clayton was saying. So,
and they will be developing,
or a change to the Metro service, or it's almost, I can almost imagine whether it's as simple as a Google Doc or something like a little wiki page or something that or just a Word doc that's continually updated, that something that says we're sort of tracking issues that relate to city planning.
The other piece that I think would be helpful as well is if a particular committee gets this information and decides to try and do something to it, it's their responsibility then to let the rest of the committees and the rest of the volunteer army be aware of what they're trying to do, so that we're not duplicating efforts, because I could see that happening too.
Is there a way that we could get on, and I know that there's a man, but is there a way that we could get
Clayton, we're losing you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think there it seems like there's a short going on with your mic.
Is this better?
Much
yeah,
better.
That's a lot better.
Is there a way that we could get like a 10-minute section on some of those other committees to report on some of this stuff to the other committees?
Well, it was an interesting piece that you should mention that. My suggestion to the mayor at the beginning of the year was to have the committee chairs meet on a regular basis to update all the other committees on what they were doing. And that would allow the communication between one and another and another and another, so that if there was a partnership that could be utilized, it would be, much easier if we all know what the other's doing.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay. Go forth.
I motion that we ask Sylvia and the city administration to maintain a page using the OpenGov platform that tracks economic development related issues on an ongoing basis for review by CED as well as other committees and the city as a whole.
And I asked that you, because we got to tie it to the agenda item, to the budget that we're on, if you
Sure,
could say, as opposed to requesting the $60,000.
Sure. Yes, and so I'll add to that in lieu of a planning budget line item, and in order to inform future budget decision making.
Great, great. Do we have a second?
I'll second it now.
Okay, Karen, second. Any further discussion? Matt, could you read us back that motion, please?
Can I just ask if we're done with the budget? Does that motion go with the budget, or is the budget a separate item?
That was it was supposed to be worked as a line item. We've changed it. So, geez.
Okay, so separate.
Yeah, it's got to be separate. Yeah. So, Matt, can you read that?
So the motion is that the city administrative staff should maintain a page using the OpenGov platform to track economic development issues affecting the city. And then I kind of lost it. Rather than asking for funds devoted to economic development consultant.
Did you want to include all the items, including Clayton's piece?
The four items that we were talking about.
Yeah, specifically tracking
ISD, Travis County, TxDOT, Cap Metro.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion further? If not, let's take the vote. To all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Good. Thank you very much. I think that's a great idea, and that's something that lots of us will benefit from. Also, then my next thought is on the budget. We are going to delete the economic development strategic consulting person. So that would be, we'll just take that back out, correct? Everybody?
Yes. That's right.
Correct.
Okay, good. All right, now we need to move on down to the hot funds. And this is where, again, we're looking at, in the past, we have done different events. And what I ask you all to help with, these are my ideas and some people who've come to me with ideas. But what I want is to look through them quickly, the digital marketing, the web, and the other areas that they're going to be working on is $35,000, and that's the marketing firm. Ad production beyond marketing, the marketing RFP is $75,000. That's across the board. Okay, as we look at the events throughout the year, and I kind of put these down from what I was given or told about what ideas. If anybody has any additional ideas, more than happy to look at this. Okay, events during the year, Christmas in the Valley, and these are weekly events. It's month-long and weekly events, lighting of Sunset Valley trees, arrival of Santa around the world, food trucks, caroling, music. Again, there's going to be a partnership with the Arts Commission on these pieces. The promotional part is $10,000. The production is $50,000 under the gold. Under the silver, and again, this is kind of to make it real and to justify the ability. I'm not sure how great it would work, but we had to be able to decrease our budget. Is the same concept, but have marketing firms solicit help from the management companies. And so then it goes down to $8,000 for promotion and $35,000 for production. And then under the bronze, same idea, but put the onus completely on the management companies. So it goes down to $5,000 and $15,000. So again, that's that month-long event. The second one of the to add to that was an addition that somebody brought to me, begin the purchase of lights for the trees in Sunset Valley. And I know that there are a number of ideas out there that include this. And as we do it, 25,000, this would be purchasing those lights and they would be used year after year. The second at the silver level is 20,000. And then at the bronze level, 15,000. And the amount of lights you get, we had to put a number in there. So that's going to be dependent on the actual light, the light strings and such. Okay, third part is spring sponsored run. And this would be something, again, bringing people into Sunset Valley and making it a big event, heavy promotional, links to businesses and eateries and incentives to shop and eat in Sunset Valley. And this has all got to be put into it so that we can utilize the hot funds. At the gold level, 15,000. Then the production of it is 40,000. And again, that's one of those pieces where it's a nebulous number. I can't, but I thought that was probably pretty close because we used to have the Donkey Dash, and I looked back in records and we had that. Okay, same event with similar work and portions assisted by professional run company. Promotional is 10,000 and production is 20. And then outsource the event entirely would be 30,000. And that would be we and our management company, not management, our marketing firm would not have anything at all to do with it. I'm not sure how good that would be, but again, that would bring down the cost. Okay, back to school event is number 4 on that list. And this is something that we would involve a lot more folks and have the ability to take care of as people come in to shop, allow them to be able to have something to do while they're here. Exhibits for the children, that can be done by the companies, it can be done by Sunset Valley. Shop around specials at City Hall and Public Works and the police department, do tours or activities, nature walks, that kind of thing, stories, crafts, and while the parents are shopping, the kids can be taken care of. At the gold level, promote 7,500, production 15. Same concept with more dependence on the management companies, giving them responsibility as well, would be 5,000 promo and production 12,500. Same concept, but with management at the helm to roll it out. And unless the management companies are willing to step up as a full-time partner on this, it is probably not going to be very successful. And production costs for Sunset Valley to offer the programs, we're looking at 5,000 and 5,000. I think I cut, earlier, Clayton, you were saying about at the bronze level, cutting that down. Well, in this one, we did do a lot of that cutting. So, any other ideas of concepts and stuff that we want to add to the year things? I think once we get our management company or marketing firm, in place and they have the time to do their work, we're going to see that they're going to come up with a lot of ideas, or we're going to have ideas we're going to give them and they're going to be able to run with it. So this is going to be kind of a neat partnership for us.
The only thing I would add is given that we're on the precipice of bringing a real, potentially really exciting firm on board, maybe just taking those 2 marketing line items and combining them into a single budget line item for both marketing and ad production. The 75-35 feels a little prescriptive and a little arbitrary. And if we have the firm on board, that they might make recommendations that change that budget and that budget allocation. Maybe just give a flat budget for marketing support, ongoing marketing, and advertising support.
Okay, what we did do, and this is something that I have a question on the web itself. If we wanted to update the web, that was a big piece, I thought, with us as a city when we were looking at marketing firms.
What do you mean?
Being able to revamp our web and making it not just a city website, but something that is going to be a website that people are going to utilize and
That
come
was,
to.
that was approved by the council. We do have some RFPs that were received, but it's also on hold in this post-COVID budget.
Okay, so that is in the process, because I know that it was something that we were saying was important. Okay, so taking out the web and with digital marketing, there are other areas too with digital marketing. So what you're saying is digital marketing and ad production beyond the marketing RFP, put it in one category across the
Yeah.
board with both amounts. Okay.
Yeah, and the biggest reason for even to that point about the website, for example, is that something like analytics on site traffic to the Sunset Valley City website combined with the firm's strategy might reveal that their recommendation is to not invest in trying to drive people to the site, whose purpose is city functions first and foremost, but perhaps to the city's Facebook page or to utilize other platforms where people are, whether it's Instagram or whatever. So those are the kinds I would just want to give the firm who has the expertise the maximum flexibility to come back and say, hey, here's our strategy for 2021 for how to spend your marketing dollars and which platforms to use to reach which audiences.
Okay.
And not be prescriptive about it.
Okay. Yeah. I'm okay with that. How about the rest of the committee? Because you all had a chance to look through this. Hello.
So we combine
The 35 and the 75, and then have it as, now we would just put marketing. What would the title be if we put the two together?
I think he just said marketing support, correct?
Marketing support. Okay. Okay, we can do that and then add these two. Okay, that's easy. And I agree. And you know what we have in the past done, and this is, I don't know how it would be perceived today, but we would be able to, if we needed something or something came up, we could always take from one pot and, as long as it got approved, move it over to another. But by putting them both together right in the beginning, that's okay too. So, okay. How about any other ideas, or do we want to put another line item and just not put cost on it, but ideas promoted by our marketing firm? Or do you have some other ideas that you want to integrate into this budget?
I had a question for Sylvia with regards to this budget. Can you hear me?
Yes.
When we were talking about the signage and we were talking about the Christmas, we were also discussing adding, and I didn't know if it would be in Public Works budget or not, but adding more poles that would be owned by Sunset Valley. And is that something that would be in Public Works, or is that something that we should mention the line item in here?
That's a Public Works line item because it takes up city right of way. But I can make sure that it makes its way into Public Works.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't think that actually falls under us, but yeah, because we would be the beneficiaries of putting things up on them. So that's
a
good.
good idea, because down the center of Brody Lane, it seems to me we could use at least 3 in that stretch, to hang banners and do whatever we want. So that's a really good point.
Hey guys, John's computer crashed and he wanted to let you know that he's rebooting, and that in marketing and advertising, production and placement, all platforms, it should change production to creative, production. I don't know why I can't, my glasses don't let me see that small print, but yeah.
Okay, well, how about at the end of this budget, and would you talk with him and find out, because at the end of the budget, if you go down to the bottom of the sheet, I have a key, promotion and marketing, and then production, execution of activity or event. So what we would want to put down there is creative and execution, because what in those little blocks, it's easier to have just one word. So we can put creative
Creative and production, yeah.
and production. Okay, that's easy. Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. Anything else that anybody wants? I will make the changes of putting those two together and put them under marketing support. And that would be 110,000 right there. And that's, again, has to be across the board because we need that to make the marketing work. Any other things? Okay. If not, can we get a motion that
Penny, you need a motion for both the general fund and hot funds.
Oh, we need two separates or both together? Do you want two separate ones?
Preferably two separates because your agenda is separate.
Okay. Okay. How about let's start out with the general funds. We went through that. We agreed on it. May I have a motion to approve the general funds budget for 2021 for CED?
Mickey so moves.
Nikki, motion made. Second?
I second it.
Second, welcome back.
Hard
Okay.
crash. Hard crash.
That's
Frozen.
hard. Yeah, I hate that stuff happening. Okay, all those, any comments, any questions? I think we've pretty much gone through this, so we can go to the vote. All those.
Ruth has her hand up.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm not seeing anybody anymore, so I don't know. Okay, Ruth?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I just have a question for Sylvia as you guys are getting ready to vote on both of these agenda items. Sylvia, you have seen the other committees making their budgets and coming up with 3 levels and et cetera. Are most committees coming in with their bronze being like half of their gold? I mean, what kind of a span of reduction do you see on this level?
Not all the committees have finished their budgets. I can answer that better tonight with P&E, because P&E and Public Works are probably next to you guys are the largest bulk of where it's going to come from. So I'll be able to tell you that more tonight.
Do you have any advice for them on how to make their budget most, within realm of acceptable or reasonable and to be?
Anything that relieves the general fund is going to be more acceptable than that requires the general fund. Because I'll just tell you, our revenue estimates are about 3.8 million this year. And the Budget and Finance Committee, we just went through our first couple of departments and we're already at 3 million. So we're already having discussions about what's the tolerance level for the reserve. And then what are those? That's why we did bronze, silver, and gold, understanding that everybody is at a bare minimum essential. And then what gets essential plus added on. But I can tell you right now, whatever relieves the general fund is more than likely okay, assuming it doesn't have a long-term personnel cost associated to it. Like a one-time cost is one thing, but when you start adding staff to it, those get hard. Those get really hard because they have to be sustainable year after year.
Okay. And then would you feel that these budgets, one of them will be approved, or is there the option for even them to scrap them or to change them as they are submitted?
Oh yeah, the council, well, the mayor, first of all, has the first pass at making any recommended changes to the budget. And then what she turns around and submits to the council also has opportunity to make comments. But we're trying to give her a portfolio of things to be able to put forward because it is such a complicated budget year.
Way to do this, yeah. And I know that as we go through this process, when we go out and, we need to be able to justify what we're doing, but we also have to understand that we have to be flexible as well. So if things get reduced or cut, we go with what we get. And I don't want to say get what we get, but we go with the amount that works within the budget. So, okay. All right. We have a motion on the floor and a second for the general funds budget 2021. All those in favor? Aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion is passed. Thank you. Thank you for your insight and your input. I think we've I feel like we've really come to an agreement on a lot of this stuff, and some good ideas have come from it. Okay, we now move down to the hot funds budget for CED for 2021. We've gone through the whole process, reviewing what we have here, and with the understanding that as we bring on the marketing firm, things will tweak some. We have to understand that, and we did make the change in the budget that I sent to y'all, that we are going to incorporate the 75 and the 35 to make it 110,000 for the marketing support, and that will be added in there. So those two line items will be put together. Can I have a motion to approve this budget so that we can take it to further down the road?
Budget.
Okay, that's John, right?
Yep, that's
Okay, motion by John, a second.
Mickey Powers, second.
Mickey, second. Any comments, questions, or information you want to share? Okay, hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, aye.
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 All those opposed, likewise. Motion is passed. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for everything. This has been a lot of work, but I think we've come out with something that's really good. And again, we're working for the city, so that's good. Okay, one announcement as we go and adjourn is tomorrow, 6 p.m. council meeting, and the presentation by the top three that we chose and forwarded on to the council for their presentations, 15 minutes and a 15-minute question and answer. Please, please, please be there so that we can come before them and say, these are the three companies that we recommend. You choose one of, and hopefully we can get it all working tomorrow night and be in a place where we can move down the road. That's a good thing, but I need everybody there tomorrow evening. Any questions or comments before we adjourn? Nope. Okay, we will not be meeting on the 1st. That's our normal meeting date, but the zoning commission has a meeting. There was something with COVID that they had to postpone several times, and they had to meet on the 1st. So we will not be meeting on the 1st. This is why we ended up meeting today, and we need to let Sylvia and Matt get moving because they've got 2 more committee meetings tonight. So anyway, a motion to adjourn, please.
Mickey so moves.
Mickey, motion, second.
Karen seconds.
Aaron, seconds. All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, everybody, so much, and thank you for being here today. This was a good thing that we could get all this done. I appreciate all the work that you're doing. Take care and have a great evening. Bye.
Thanks, Penny.
Thanks, Penny.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Aye.